The first question. Every time I hear you praising capitalism, I get angry. You say sannyas means to get rid of all conditioning and to escape out of every cage, whether it is religious, philosophical or political. But is not capitalism a cage too? Why can't we live a creative life in wealth and freedom without any isms? Capitalism is not a ism at all. Just don't get too much obsessed by the word. Sometimes words become too much important to us and we tend to forget the reality. Capitalism is not any ideology. It is not imposed on the society. It is a natural growth. It is not like communism or fascism or socialism. These are ideologies. They have to be imposed. Capitalism has come on its own. In fact, the word capitalism has been given by the anti-capitalist thinkers, the communists, the socialists and others. Capitalism is a state of freedom. That's exactly why I'm in support of it. It allows you all kinds of freedoms. Communism will not allow you all kinds of freedoms. Communism will give you only one ideology to believe in. There is no question of choice. I am reminded of Henry Ford when he made his first model. Those cars were only in one color, black, and he himself used to introduce the customers in his showroom. He will go around with them and show the cars. He used to say to people, you are free to choose any color provided it is black. That's exactly the attitude of communism. You are free to choose any ideology, any philosophy, any religion provided it is communism. In a communist society, there is no hope for multidimensional humanity to grow. It can allow only a certain type to grow. It is linear. You cannot conceive that in a communist pattern, even Karl Marx is possible. He will not be allowed. You cannot conceive a Jesus, a Buddha, a Krishna, a Lao Tzu being born in a communist society. They will be destroyed from the very beginning. Before the Russian Revolution, Russia had produced the greatest novelists of the world. Before the revolution, Russia passed through an immense period of creativity. It was almost an explosion. Nowhere else, in no other time, so many great artists were born together. Leo Tolstoy, Fyodor Dostoevsky, Anton Chekhov, Maxim Gorky, Turgenev, and many more. What happened to all that creativity after the Russian Revolution? Not a single Tolstoy, not a single Dostoevsky, not a single Maxim Gorky has come out. It is impossible, because the government directs you what to write, what not to write. The bureaucracy dictates everything. You cannot paint according to your own heart. You cannot sing the song that you want to sing. You have to dance on the tune the government plays. Naturally, only mediocre people have been happy in Russia. Untalented people will find it very good. But talented people, which are the salt of the earth, will be retarded. Only one outlet is there to go into politics, and that too is not easy. Once you are in power, it is very difficult for anybody else to replace you. Joseph Stalin remained in power longer than any person, and he was hated from the very guts of the people, but nobody was able to say anything. He killed more people than Genghis Khan, Timur-Lenk, Nadir Shah. Even Adolf Hitler comes second to him, and he killed very methodologically. It is estimated that he must have killed at least millions of people with no guilt. The day he died and Khrushchev came in power, he started saying things against him. Even his dead body was removed from Kremlin, from the place where it was ceremoniously placed. It was dragged from the grave in a very insulting way, removed to a faraway place where nobody visits. And Khrushchev was always serving him as a servant. And when he started saying things against him, in one of the meetings of communist workers, he was talking against Stalin. A worker from the back row shouted that where you had been when he was alive. Why didn't you say these things when he was alive? For a moment there was very uneasy silence. Even Khrushchev could not find words. Then he asked, "Can I ask one thing, sir?" Can you stand up, comrade? Who has asked this question? And nobody stood up. And Khrushchev laughed and he said, now you know, that's my answer. Communism is an ism. Capitalism is not an ism. Capitalism is simply a natural phenomenon that has come on its own. There are no capitalist philosophers. There is no capitalist party. There is no capitalist economy which has been enforced on people. It is a growth. But you seem to be too much attached to the word. Rather than looking at the reality, you become distracted by the word capitalism. It simply means a state of laissez-faire, a state of freedom where one is allowed to be himself. Capitalism is not an ism but a natural state of society which is capable of producing capital, which is capable of producing wealth. Now for 60 years or more, communism has existed in Russia. Still communism existing in Russia has not been able to make it a rich society. It is a poor country. Of course, they go on competing as far as war technology is concerned, but people are poor. America is far more richer. In fact, the richest society that has ever existed on the earth. Even the poorest man in America is in a far better situation than any Russian. For the simple reason that people are allowed to produce wealth if they choose to be. If they choose not to produce wealth, if they want to be painters, poets, they are allowed. That is their freedom. That is their birthright. In communism, you don't have any birthright. And remember, equality is a very unpsychological idea. People are not equal. Albert Einstein, Karl Marx, Gautam Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, Ghalib. Can you think these people are equal? The society consists of thousands of types. It is beautiful because of the variety. Communism destroys variety. It makes people in a certain pattern. It gives them a certain structure. The whole society becomes like army. Everybody is regimented. Everybody is following a certain ideal. Don't be too much obsessed with the simple word capitalism. But we live in words. The very word, the mentioning of the word can create anger in you. That simply shows anger is there. And it is a natural phenomenon. Particularly when you are a disciple to a master, deep down you are angry at him. There are reasons for it. Because surrendering is going against your ego. And the ego is always ready to take revenge. Any excuse will do. Judas betrayed Jesus. Do you think he simply betrayed Jesus because of 30 silver coins? That is not the case. Judas will not betray only for 30 silver coins. He had lived long with Jesus, has loved him, worshipped him, was surrendered to him. Then what came over him? And he felt immensely guilty. The day Jesus was crucified, within 24 hours, Judas committed suicide out of sheer guilt, what he has done. He could not survive. He could not live. The guilt was too heavy. But nobody has looked into the psychology of Judas. So many people have researched deeply into the psychology of Jesus, but nobody has bothered to look into the psychology of Judas, which is worth studying. Because masters are few and disciples are many, and their psychology should be understood. And it is not the first case. Gautam Buddha was betrayed by his own cousin brother who was a disciple. Devadatta was his name. Mahavira was betrayed by his own son-in-law who was his disciple. It is an almost inevitable phenomenon that each master has been betrayed by somebody who was very close. Why? There must be some hidden reason. Just don't condemn Judas. Judas is only one of the examples. To surrender to a master creates anger. Unwillingly, you have to surrender, finding no other way. You have tried every possible way to be on your own. But the more you have made the efforts, the deeper you have gone in the mess. So ultimately, as a last resort, you surrender. But the unwillingness is there. You would have been far more happier if there was no need to surrender. But because there is nothing else to do, you have done everything and it has all failed. You need somebody's help and support. You need somebody's guidance. And in spiritual matters, guidance is possible only if you trust, if you surrender, if you put your ego aside. So you put it aside, but very unwillingly, reluctantly. And it waits for its time to take revenge. So any small excuse becomes a very big thing. Now the word capitalism is torturing you. If you understand me, what you are saying, that's exactly what I mean by capitalism. You say, why can't we live a creative life in wealth and freedom without any isms? That's exactly what capitalism is. Drop the word ism. Find something else. I am not much concerned about words. I am not a linguist, not a grammarian. Noah Webster, the lexicographer, was in his office making love to his secretary. When Mrs. Webster walked in, "No," she gasped, "I'm surprised." Quickly pulling his trousers up, he replied, "Not so, my dear, you are shocked. I am surprised." The grammarian, the lexicographer, the linguist is continuously thinking of words. He's right. He says, "No, you are shocked. You are using the wrong words. I am surprised." But it is not a question of words at all. Don't get too much obsessed with words. Otherwise, you will be getting angry again and again. If you want to be angry, that's another matter. Then you can find any excuse, and you will find 1001. I can provide you as many excuses as possible. You say, sannyas means to get rid of all conditioning. Yes, and it includes the obsession with words too. And you say to escape out of every cage. True. Capitalism is the only state where you are not forced to live in a cage. You are free. But capitalism is in a very dangerous state for the simple reason because there are only few people who are capable of creating wealth, and they create great jealousy in others. Those who cannot create wealth, they become jealous, and they are more. You just think, if society is ruled by poets, people will be angry at poetry. Because only few people will be capable of creating poetry. A Shakespeare, a Milton, a Kalidas, a Rabindranath. Only very few people will be able to create poetry, and they will be the rulers. What about 99.9% people who are absolutely unpoetic? They will become very angry. Or if the society is ruled by musicians, then what about those who cannot produce music, who are not creative in that dimension? Then Beethoven, Mozart, Wagner, few people will be able to dominate. They will be on the tops. And what about others? The millions will feel angry. The same is true about capitalism. Very few people are capable of creating wealth. It is a dimension of creativity. Everybody is not a Ford, nor a Morgan, nor a Rockefeller. This is going to be so. But to understand your jealousy and to get rid of it is sannyas. To understand your jealousy will help tremendously to find your dimension of creativity. Everybody is born with a certain potential, but it is not the same. And it is good that it is not the same. If everybody was a Shakespeare, literature will lose all joy. If everybody was a Jesus carrying his own cross, the whole scene will look very crazy. And then those Jesuses will go on carrying their crosses. And who is going to crucify them? They will not find even people who can crucify them. It will be a very, very long and tedious journey to nowhere. They will die natural deaths carrying their crosses unnecessarily. It is good that everybody is not a Jesus, not a Buddha. Everybody has to be himself. And capitalism simply gives you the possibility to be yourself. Certainly, you will have to prove your mettle. You will have to work. You will have to create. You will have to bring your total energy to a focus. Only then you will be able to shine forth. Capitalism is basically individualism. It is not a social structure. More than that, it is just democracy and freedom. But when you allow everybody to be himself, certainly you will feel very jealous, because you can only be something, and there will be many people who can be many other things. Somebody will be a poet, somebody will be a sculptor, somebody will be a novelist, somebody will be a musician, a dancer, an architect, a scientist. Maybe you are just a boxer. But there is no need to be worried. You can be the greatest boxer in the world. One has to look within oneself and discover one's potential. Capitalism gives you the freedom to be yourself. That's why I support it. My support has reasons behind it. I am not supporting it as an economical phenomenon. There is much more involved in my support. And to my understanding, capitalism will bring a socialism of its own kind as a byproduct. Because when people have created too much wealth, what they are going to do with it? What you will do with the wealth when you have created it? Albert Einstein finds the theory of relativity, the secret of atomic energy. Then it becomes the part of the whole society. Then sooner or later everybody is going to be benefited by it. Few people will create wealth, but they will reveal the secrets of how to create wealth. Sooner or later this whole society is to be benefited by it. A real socialism will come out of capitalism as a byproduct. When too much wealth is created, people will not be so greedy. The greed arises only because the wealth is very scarce. And you can see it very clearly. Here you can see it. The poor person is very greedy. The rich person is not so greedy. The people who are coming from the West are less greedy than the people who are living in India. The Indians talk about no greed, greedlessness, but they are the most greedy people in the world. They have to be. They are so poor, they have to cling. It happens almost every day. Some Western sannyasin will turn to the office and will say that I would like to donate 10 lakh rupees, but I don't want my name to be mentioned. Because this is not such a big thing. But no Indian turns up even for 10 rupees. if you want from Indians 10 rupees, you have to go to them and persuade them. Then too it will be very difficult for them. They will give you 10 rupees only if you convince them that you will be getting 1,000-fold more in the other world. Then they will give, otherwise not. Unless they are convinced and you prove through the scriptures that 1,000-fold, exactly 1,000-fold, unless it is a business proposal, and it is really a good business. 10 rupee you give here and 10,000-fold you get there. Where you can get that much interest? It is almost like winning a lottery. Then it is worth risking 10 rupees. I had to stop Indians completely. I have told my office people, don't accept from Indians, because we don't want on any conditions. And they bring their conditions also. 10 rupees they are donating, but they will bring their conditions, that these conditions have to be fulfilled. Bhagwan should not say this. Bhagwan should say this. Just because they are donating 10 rupees, they want to control everything. How sannyasins should behave, how they should move in the society. Just because of their 10 rupees, all the sannyasins have to follow a certain moral code decided by them. You can see it easily. The West has created the wealth enough. The greed is disappearing. But in the East, the greed has gone on increasing more and more. In fact, because the greed is too much, that's why people talk about greedlessness. The saints go on teaching to people, don't be greedy, because they know they are greedy. Otherwise, why they will teach? It will be stupid to talk about that way. I have seen the most ancient scriptures, they all talk about greedlessness, non-attachment. They all talk about non-violence, no stealing, no adultery. Look at everybody's wife as your mother or sister or daughter, as the case may be. The most ancient scriptures, all these rules of conduct prove only one thing, that man has always been just the opposite. Otherwise, why so much fuss about don't commit adultery? The most ancient scriptures talk about it, don't commit adultery. People must have been committing. Either the people were committing adultery, or these people who were writing scriptures were crazy. People must have been very greedy, because all the Jaina scriptures, almost on every page, talk about greedlessness, as if that was the only obsession of the people. Renounce. They all say gold is dust. If gold is dust, why renounce? Nobody renounces dust. Even those scriptures don't say renounce dust, because dust is just gold and nothing else. So renounce it. Don't touch dust, because it is just gold. But they all talk about renouncing gold, and in the same breath they go on saying it is dust. They are contradicting themselves. And the people they are talking must have been very greedy, must have been clutching to gold. And the people who are talking, at the same time they say to people, renounce gold, but they say donate gold to the temples. Donating dust to the temples. I dust the whole dust of the world to the temples. Will that make any sense? But donate gold, and that too. Jaina monks in their scriptures say, donate only to Jaina temples. Dust, donating only to Jaina temples. Why not to Hindu temples too? Why not to Buddhist temples too? And the Buddhists go on saying the same. Donate only to the Buddhist temples, because they are true temples. What does it make any difference whether the temple is true or untrue? You are only donating dust. Even if you donate to the untrue temple, what is wrong in it? Brahmins say only donate to the Brahmins. Jainas say only donate to the Jaina monks. And Buddhists say donate only to the Buddhist monks. All others are charlatans. They are the true people. That shows their real intention. Remember, a society is possible which will not be greedy, but that is possible not through socialism. It is possible only through the growth of capitalism, through the growth of freedom. Talented people have to be given absolute freedom to create whatsoever they can, poetry, wealth, music, whatsoever they can create, let them create, and their creativity will raise the society to higher levels. Capitalism is pure freedom. Of course, everybody is not capable of creating wealth, hence it creates jealousy. But we should not be dominated by jealousy. We should not be dominated by those who are uncreative. If we are dominated by the uncreative, by the jealous, then we will destroy all talented people. And they are the real people. They are the people who raise humanity to higher stages. The humanity owes all its growth to very few people, not to the masses, not at all. The masses have been the hindrances. They are like rocks preventing the growth of society. The society has been benefited only by few scientists, few mystics, few creators. Others have been just hindering in every possible way. And these others constitute the majority. And of course they are jealous. But nobody says directly that I am jealous. He will talk about equality, socialism, communism, beautiful words to hide something ugly. Whenever I say something, meditate over it. By being angry is not going to help. Anger simply shows that something in you is hurt. Some wound is there. Maybe you have come believing in socialism, communism, and all that kind of nonsense. There are many sannyasis who had belonged in their past to political ideologies. When they come to me, it becomes difficult for them to drop all their rubbish. But you have to drop all your rubbish. It is easy for you when I say, don't be a Christian. Because in fact, you are not a Christian at all. When I say, don't be a Mohammedan or a Hindu, who is a Mohammedan, who is a Hindu? These are only formalities. But when I say, don't be a communist or a socialist, then it hurts more. Because particularly the new generation is very much addicted with communist ideology. Capitalism is not an ideology at all. That's why I prefer it. The second question. I am 75 years old. I want to become a sannyasin, but I don't know why I am hesitating. I think you wait a little more. Let the death come first. Then I can initiate you into sannyas. Because when death has already happened, there will be no hesitation. You will not be there at all. 75 years old and still hesitating. One leg is already in the grave. 99% is almost dead. Only 1% can become a sannyasin now. And even you are hesitating. It happens almost always to old people. The people who followed Jesus were all young, almost of his own age. The people who followed Buddha were of his age, are nearby. The same was true with Mahavira. The older a person becomes, the more cautious he becomes. And one can understand why. He has lived in the world with so many deceptive people all around. He has been deceived again and again. He has been cheated, that he becomes very cautious, hesitant. He clings to the familiar and becomes afraid of the unknown. But sometimes it happens your very cautiousness can be the most destructive thing in your life. Because to be very cautious means dying before your death. It is a well-known psychological fact that people die near about 30 years of age. Of course, they live even afterwards. Actually, they die near about 70, 80. So what is those 50 years? That is a kind of post-mortem existence. The gay couple were strolling down a Paris street. One kept saying to the other, "Watch out, dearie. Don't step in the doggy-doo. Watch out, dearie. Don't step in the doggy-doo." "Ah, shit, I just stepped in the doggy-doo." Making the other cautious. He has forgotten completely about himself. You are becoming too much alert, too much cautious, and soon you will fall in the doggy-doo. And then it will be too late. It is really already late. It is evening time, the sun is setting. Don't waste time. An old man of 97 and his wife, 92, were appearing before the judge. They wanted a divorce. The judge was very surprised. "You are so old," he said. "Why do you want to separate now, after all these years of being together?" The old man did not answer. But after some minutes, his wife said very shyly, "Your Honor, we wanted to wait till all our children died." Now, for what are you waiting? All the children to die before? Now, what is the point of waiting? You have waited enough. And remember, death will not ask you. It will not even inform you. It will not even knock on your doors. It simply comes. And before you have recognized, you are finished. Before death happens, let sannyas happen. Because sannyas in fact has two functions. For you now, it can do only one function. It has two functions. The first is the art of life, and the second is art of dying. The first you have missed. Next time when you are around, don't miss it. But the second is still possible. You can learn the art of dying. You can die peacefully, silently, blissfully, surrendered to God. And in fact, the second part is far more important than the first part, because the first ultimately leads to the second. The art of life is only a preparation for the art of death. If one can dance, sing, and celebrate one's own death, if one can die in deep consciousness, with no complaint, with no grudge, but immense gratitude towards God, one has fulfilled one's mission in life. The fourth question: are all desires insane? Yes, all desires are insane. Desire as such is insane, because desire means living in the future, and the future does not exist at all. What exists is the present. To live in the present is the only sanity there is. But to live in the present, you have to drop all desiring. Desire takes you away from now and here. Desire means fantasizing about the tomorrow. Desire means that if this happens, if I can manage this, then I will live. You are sacrificing the present for the future, and the present is and the future is not. Sacrificing that which is for that which is not is insanity, sheer insanity. A high pressure salesman for a milking machine company seemed unable to convince a farmer to buy his appliance. "There is no use of talking," persisted the farmer. "I have only got one cow to milk." "But this machine will save you time in milking even one cow," he insisted. "Look, it is just about milking time now. Let us go to the barn and I will show you." In the barn, the salesman set up his machine and began the demonstration, carrying on meanwhile his persuasive flock of talk. The old man began to take a keen interest in the proceeding as he beheld the wondrous efficiency of the milker. "Well, mister, the prospect considered at last, I admit it is wonderful. I would like mighty well to have it, but I have got no money and no way of borrowing any." He paused and looked longingly at the shining machine. "I tell you though, what I am willing to do," he went on. "I will let you take the cow as the first payment." But that's what you all are doing. Sacrificing the present for the future. Sacrificing that which you have for that which you have not yet and may not have ever. The tomorrow never comes. All that comes is always today. And you can become addicted of sacrificing the today for the tomorrow. Then you will go on doing the same thing your whole life, always sacrificing the now for something which is not. This is how people are living. That's why their life remains a desert with no oasis. Nothing flowers, nothing blossoms, no fragrance, no festivity. People look so sad with such long faces. The whole earth seems to be suddenly turned very religious. Everybody looks like a saint. So dead, so serious, so sad, that if the old saints come back to the earth, they will be very much puzzled. What has happened? Have the whole world become saintly? Of course, they will find few exceptions, Mahasannyasis. And they will think that Mahasannyasis are crazy. That's how the whole world thinks about Mahasannyasis. Because they are still enjoying, living, loving, dancing, singing. Just the other day I received a letter from an old woman. I loved her letter. Her son was a sannyasin. And he died just 2 weeks before in a car accident. She writes to me that I am grateful, Bhagwan, to you, because just before he died, he had come to see me after many, many days. And he was so happy. I have never seen him so happy. He was almost dancing. And he was so loving to me. I have never seen him so loving. There has never been such a communion between me and him. There was always something like a wall separating. But the day he came to see me, all barriers dropped. Although he died, and I will never be able to see him again, but I am immensely happy and grateful to you that you had made him laugh and sing and enjoy, and you had helped him to drop his seriousness. He died joyously. It is from a mother very difficult for a mother to accept the death of her son. But she could accept even the death, although she knows nothing of sannyas. She has never been here. But one thing she understood, that something very essential has changed into the life of her son. She is not at all sad about his death. She is happy that before he died, he had attained something. He has not lived in vain. Desires are crazy. They make you sad in two ways. If they are not fulfilled, you will be sad, frustrated. If they are fulfilled, you will be sad and frustrated. In fact, more. Because when your desires are fulfilled, then you suddenly recognize you have been chasing shadows, illusions. You have been trying to catch hold of a rainbow. All that you find is that your hands are wet, that's all. And people go on asking for the impossible. In fact, the more impossible a thing is, the more attractive it appears, because it gives a more challenge to your ego. The ego is not interested in the easy. It is interested in the difficult. And if it is impossible, it is immensely interested. The ego exists only through the difficult and the impossible. That's why the ego is not interested in God, because God is the most simple phenomenon in the world. You have not to do anything to achieve God, because He is already inside you. You have not to do a thing. You have just to sit silently and watch and see in, and you will find Him. It is so easy. That's why the ego is not interested in it at all. The ego is interested to climb to the Everest. And what you are going to find there? What Edmund Hillary did find on the Everest, nobody asks him. There was nothing to find. Just one story I have heard, that when he reached on the Everest, he was feeling very great that he is the first man to reach the Everest. Then he suddenly saw one Indian monk is squatting on the ground. He was very much shocked. Somebody has already reached before him. He was so shocked that he could not even say, "Hi, how are you?" Before he could say anything, the Indian monk said, "How much for the watch?" And people are reaching to the moon. And what do you know? What is there on the moon? Nothing at all. They go on bringing few rocks. You could have gathered those rocks here, anywhere. There was no need to go so far away. One story certainly I have heard. When for the first time the Americans reached on the moon, they were very much puzzled, because from the other side of the moon there was coming such noise. So they went to see what is happening, and there were at least 10,000 Chinese talking and talking. And when Chinese talk, ching, ching, pong, ting, the Americans were very much puzzled. They said, "What is going on? And how you managed to reach? We don't think you have the technology yet." And they said, "What technology you are talking about? There is no need for any technology. We simply bent on, stood up upon each other, and we reached." What technology? Our population is enough. We can reach to any planet we decide, and we have come only for a holiday, a picnic. People are more interested in reaching to the Everest, to the moon, to the Mars, rather than reaching to their own innermost self. because that is no challenge to the ego. God is so obvious, that's why he is missed. Truth is so easily available, that's why nobody is interested in it. Nirvana is now, and the mind is not interested in the now at all. It is always somewhere else. A long time ago in China, a mandarin had 3 beautiful daughters. He wished to marry them off to nobles of wealth and status. In those days, a man's position in society was indicated by the number of dragons embroidered on the front of his robe. The mandarin called his daughters, announced his intentions, and asked the eldest what kind of man she wished to marry. "Ah, Daddy," she said, "I would like to marry a man with 3 dragons on his chest." "Very good," replied the father. "I will arrange it." Then turning to the second daughter, he asked, "What kind of man would you like?" "Ah, Daddy, get me a man with 2 dragons on his chest." The father was very pleased, and turning to the youngest daughter said, "I suppose you want to marry a man with 1 dragon on his chest?" In a voice charged with emotion, she replied, "Ah, no, Daddy, I want a man with 1 dragging on the floor." All desires are insane. The only sanity is to be desireless. The only sanity is to be here now. This moment is more than enough. And the last question. I am a Catholic nun. Can I also become a sannyasin? Certainly. I am here only to destroy monks and nuns. That's my very purpose of hanging around. It is to sabotage the old idea of monks and nuns. It is to bring a new kind of sannyasin into the world. The monks and nuns of all the religions, Catholic, Protestant, Hindu, Mohammedan, Jaina, Buddhist, have all been escapists. They were people basically afraid of life. And I teach you fearlessness. Live as totally and passionately as possible, because it is through intense living that you will find God. God is nothing but life lived at the optimum, with total abandon. A dance so totally that the dancer disappears. Only the dance remains. And you have found, and you have come home. Mary, if you are a Catholic nun, then be quick. Then there is no time to waste, because it will take time for me to uncondition you. The Catholics condition people in a very scientific way, in a far more scientific way than Hindus and Mohammedans and Buddhists can do. Because the West knows the latest methods, techniques, strategies to condition. Buddhist methods are 25 centuries old. Jaina strategies are even far more older, perhaps 50 centuries old. Christianity has been learning continuously whatsoever becomes available through psychological research, and has been trying to use all the modern methods of conditioning which have been developed by Pavlov, Skinner, Delgado and others. So it will take a little longer time for me to help you get rid of your nunhood. But I am also aware of the latest, not only the latest, I am also aware of many other techniques which have not been yet developed. I have come a little ahead of my time, at least 100 years before. So all those things can be sabotaged. I can dynamite. You are welcome. Don't hesitate at all. The saints were really bored, so they sent Mary, the Holy Virgin, to Pune to see what was going on and make a daily telephone report back to them. The first call was answered by Peter. Hello Peter, this is Mary, the Holy Virgin. Today I dyed all my clothes orange. What do you think about it? That's okay, said Peter, if everybody does it. The next call came. Hello Peter, this is Mary, the Holy Virgin. Today I did dynamic meditation. What do you think about that? Well, responded Peter, if everybody does it, it is all right. On the third day the call came. Hey, Pitsy Witsy, this is with Mary, the Holy Ciao Bella. Mary, don't waste time. Malcolm and Eddie were out joyriding when they smashed into a brick wall. When they arrived at the gates of heaven, St. Peter said to Malcolm, since you were a good boy and did not sin very much, we are going to give you this new Buick to get around in up here. Peter turned to Eddie and said, you were not so good, my son, so you drive this Volkswagen. Just as the boys were about to get into their new cars, a big Lincoln Continental pulled up. Inside, a fat guy, smoking a big cigar, sat behind the wheel. He smiled and drove on. Who was that? Malcolm asked. I said, St. Peter, that was the last Pope John. Malcolm and Eddie drove off in their new cars out to tour heaven. Later that day, Malcolm saw Eddie's Volkswagen parked along the side of the road. Eddie was a little way away, rolling on the grass, laughing hysterically. What is so funny, Eddie? You won't believe this, Eddie roared. I just saw Jesus coming down the road on roller skates. Enough for today.